Hello, everyone, and welcome to the LFC Roundtable podcast. This is the podcast where we break down everything from the feeds. I am your host, Taran Armstrong, and with me today, as always, the wonderful Melissa Deni. How you doing, Melissa?
I'm good. I have not been enjoying the feeds lately because for the most part, they've also been off or just very dull. So it's been very unfortunate. I feel like ever since the twist, it's kind of just gone a little flatlined. So, I mean, hopefully we'll be able to think of things to talk about.
Yes, it's unfortunate. Also unfortunate, and also joining us, Brent. Wolgamott. How you doing?
The shade of it all. I'm sorry. Who are you again? Who? I'm not familiar with who you are, sir.
Somebody who apparently made a big impression on Ika Wong. Let me tell you.
That's
oh boy.
True. Yeah, I know, right? I heard your feed update today, just going on. Like it was supposed to be like a 10-minute update, turned into a 20-minute update because you had to bag on me and Ika and Rob last night doing the recap. But we'll get into it.
You can't have a 10-minute update. Matt Ligori wants his 13-minute one to be the shortest, so you got to pad it out. All right, we are here live every Tuesday night at 8:30 p.m. Eastern to argue about what's been going on these live feeds on Big Brother Canada 6, and we have the chat room open on robisawebsite.com. You can send questions in to me on Twitter at Armstrong Taran if you so desire. Give me those questions. I eat questions for breakfast, just like Greek yogurt. All right. Let's talk about this week in Big Brother Canada 6. Brief recap. We lost Erica in the twist, as we mentioned. Very unfortunate circumstance. We talked about how this was a likely outcome, and it happened. So Derek then wins the HOH if things weren't looking dire enough. He does the very simple nominations of Johnny and Ryan, with Johnny as the target. Derek wins the veto. He doesn't use it. And really, these recaps have usually taken about half the show. And that's really about all there is this week. Johnny has been trying to... The position Johnny is in now is that obviously Dela wants him out because that's best for their game. So he needs 4 votes to stay in the house. There is no group in this house that has control of 4 votes. You've got Paris, Will, and Maddie who have 3. That's not enough. You've got Ali and Liv who have 2. That's not enough. So he needs to convince both the Paris, Will, Maddie side and the Ali, Liv side to keep him. It's obviously not in both of their best interests to keep him. So he's got to do some very, very tricky tight walk roping here. And he's making an attempt. And, he's kind of, we talked about this before the show, Melissa and I, he's kind of like, he's on a seesaw. Like he gets Ali and Liv and he's like, all right, now I just got to get Paris and Will. And then it's like, all right, working. Okay, I got Will and maybe Maddie. Okay, we might. Oh no! Now I'm losing Ali and Liv. Oh crap! It's crazy. It's crazy stuff, Melissa.
Yeah, I feel like his best move is to convince each of the teams that they're not going to keep him. Like, if that makes sense. So that way that Ali and Liv think that Paris and those guys are not going to keep him. And Paris and those guys think that Ali and Liv are not going to keep them. So that way they're thinking that they're the ones to be voting and they're doing it against the other person. But really, they all end up doing it together. But that's going to be really hard to pull off. I mean, at the same time, though, I'm not totally convinced that he's leaving this week. So I think there's still a chance that Johnny could stay. And I really hope he does.
Yeah, I don't think that I am convinced that he's leaving either, especially when you have a dunderhead in the house like Will. I have never seen a player who is stupider. He is honestly dumb. He doesn't know what he's talking about when it comes to this game, Taran. Like, I'm sure he's a nice person in real life, but I think in the Big Brother game, he's just an idiot because he's buying everything that Johnny's selling. And I certainly believe that Johnny would go after Dela before he went after Will, even though he voted against him. But on the other hand, like, Johnny's saying things to Will like, I have your back in this game. You're my number one now. And I'm like, he said all this to you before. Don't you remember? You were upset. And I guess I can't have it both ways. I was critical of Will, being a crybaby-itis with, you voted for me. Why'd you vote for me? The first time around. But he's got to remember that history is maybe prelude here, and that Johnny not necessarily is going to have his best interest long term in the game.
Yeah, I've been saying this whole time that Will is not making smart moves. I've been saying all along that just because Will was all about like, I want to make a big move, didn't mean that he was actually going to make a good move for his game. It might have been a big move, but it wasn't helping him in any way. I mean, like, we saw this start dating back to when he went against Jesse. And I felt like that was a really dumb move on his part. And ever since then, I've just seen that he's just not making smart choices when it comes to who to align with and who to go after. And I'm just, I don't know what he's thinking.
Hey, Taran, am I being unfair? Because I saw you wince when I called Will stupid. So am I being unfair when it comes to the Big Brother game? No, we're not talking about him as the person. We're talking about him within the game.
I winced because you said stupider.
Okay.
No, I agree. I mean, do you guys remember back when Will flipped on Jesse, when we were arguing with the chat about, they were like, no, Will's a brilliant mastermind. And we were like,
and we
no.
were like,
this is why you listen. We know what we're talking about. As I knock a
back to the chat. I like it.
Chat, we're in a fight.
Yeah, Will, he's playing an interesting game. Definitely not the most strategic, not even necessarily the most social. He's basically, he was initially somebody that Dela, I guess the one good thing you can say about Will's game is that he seems very open to being used by people. So initially Dela thought that, or really more Derek thought that he could use Will. Like Derek and Jesse were like, we've got Will, he's a bro, he's covered. No, he actually wasn't. Paris feels like she has Will, but she's often found that he is not easily used. Johnny had Will for a brief moment before having to vote against him and then admit it. And it's interesting because everybody continues to think that they can use Will, even though Will defiantly refuses to be used, which is part of what makes Will's game so bad. And I do think there's a lot of luck involved in the fact that Will has not been on too much of a hot seat quite yet. You agree, Brent?
Yeah, I'm laughing at Steph in the chat. She's like, he's the new Pax bro. And I have to agree, like he's sort of like that, where he's just willy-nilly do whatever, like whatever his heart or his gut is telling him to do, he's going to do that day, whether it behooves him or not. I just find him infuriating, honestly, and I'm hoping that the fans can see what a complete knucklehead he is after this week, if they didn't already know it beforehand. But I'm just like, he's got to be he's just terrible at this game. I don't understand how he can think that keeping a player like Johnny, who you have dead to rights, like I can't even believe this is up for discussion. I'm sorry that this live update or this show tonight is not going to be more boring, because these people in the house are dumb because they have a player like Johnny who is dead to rights, who lost HOH, lost veto. There's going to be 8 people left in the game, and you're going to keep him? You're going to keep him. I'm just like, I can't with them. So I was starting with Will. That's the problem area. And I know he's not there yet. I know that there may be 3 votes to keep Johnny at this point, not 4, but I'm worried.
Yes. There's a question from Stacked in the chat who wants to know, Brent, do you still have a crush on Will? There's more to it, but
I mean, it's like,
has your crush on Will dissipated at this point?
As I once said to Robin, just made him fall out. I wouldn't throw him out of bed. That's what I said that. I mean, I said that. I think I've said that since I was 16, and Rob just like fell out when I said that. I'm like, yeah, it was not funny. But yeah, that's basically what I would say about Will. But
even afterward, you wouldn't throw him out of bed.
Yeah, exactly. He's a bit of a beta, And ever since I got on the Cody Alpha train, man, the beta's. See ya.
You can't go back.
I know, right?
Once you go alpha, you just can't go back.
Go beta.
Yeah.
Once you go alpha, you can't go beta.
Early front runner for a hashtag there.
I know, right? Hashtag can't go beta.
Yes. So, I mean, just to briefly get into a little bit of detail about Johnny's machinations during this week, he, like I said, he has to sort of go back and forth between these two groups and convince both of them that they need to keep him in this house. He first got Allie and Liv on board, who rightfully saw that they kind of messed up in getting rid of Erica and now potentially getting rid of Johnny, and that they kind of need Johnny in the house. He got them on board. Then he talked to Will. He kind of had Will on board. Paris was a bit more reluctant, and he needed to bring these two hesitant groups together. But the problem is, if Paris and Will saw that Allie and Liv were too eager to save Johnny, then they wouldn't want to save Johnny, because then it wouldn't be in their best interest, because it means that Allie and Liv are not working with Dela close enough and Johnny might be too loyal to them. So of course, Allie and Liv were very eager when they tried to persuade Paris to save Johnny, and they kind of fell off of that plan. So over the course of the next few days, Johnny continues to work on Paris, continues to work on Will. He even starts working on Maddie in the last day or so, and conversations happening right now. It seems like he is pretty close to getting potentially all three of them on board. He has Will on board for sure. Will wants to keep Johnny. He's got Maddie on the fence, and Paris is kind of inching toward that more and more as we speak. However, also, as we speak, Allie and Liv are starting to back off of it. They're kind of worried about Johnny. They're feeling a little more comfortable with Dela, and they're starting to feel like, well, is Johnny too close to Paris and Will? Are they too eager to keep him potentially? Would it be bad for us to keep Johnny? Would it be bad for us to ruin our relationship with Dela? So now that he seems to potentially have Paris and Will and Maddie on board, he's potentially losing the support of Allie and Liv. So again, it's this seesaw of back and forth. Can Johnny do it? I don't think so, but at least he's making it kind of interesting. It's really the only thing on the feeds right now, Melissa.
Do we know who Johnny would be loyal to if he ends up staying? I feel like I've been like going back and forth in my mind about it all week, and I don't know where eventually he would land if they kept him.
Yeah, and that's the problem, and it's why it's not really in almost anyone's best interest to keep Johnny necessarily, because he's just a much stronger player than Ryan, and I don't think that he would be loyal to anybody. I think that he would do whatever is best for him. If Allie and Liv win power, he is loyal to them. If Paris, Maddie, Will win power, he is loyal to them. He will do whatever he wants. Obviously, his main target would be Dela for the immediate future, but then moving forward, I do think that he would see value in essentially just replacing Dela. He would take a shot at them, to hopefully get one or both of them out, and then take their spot as playing the two groups of Allie, Liv, Paris, Maddie, Will against each other, which doesn't really improve the spots of either group, which is, again, why I don't think it's really in their best interest to go along with Johnny.
It's not in their best interest, and two things are happening. Number one, they are concerned that Will is concerned that Ryan has made a deal with Dela. Like he's like, you don't think that Ryan has made a deal? I'm trying to do Will's voice, but I can't. I just sound dumb. You don't think that Ryan? Wait, okay. Anyway, Melissa. Paris is like, well, even if he has made a deal with them, he doesn't believe it. And I'm sorry, I'm trying to look. I can't look at you right now. Okay, but I
just keep hearing it in my head.
I'll always see for the entertainment. That's all right.
Okay.
Oh my god. Oh, that's terrible. Anyway, Taran, it's a mess. Let's move on.
I don't even know who it was. Like, if you didn't tell me. Okay.
That's the stupider impression.
I feel like none of our Will impressions have ever been good.
No.
We've all tried, and it doesn't work.
If you just go straight Irish, you can get kind of close, but
Oh boy. All right. Okay. Sorry. Please, like, go back to
Yes, please. Anyways, he thinks there's a deal. He thinks Ryan has a deal. And he's like, well, if we keep Johnny, we know Johnny's definitely going to go after Dela. But, can Ryan be trusted? They want to make sure that if Ryan stays, that he keeps his nose on Dela, or at least not them, if he stays. And so they're concerned about that. And I think that's a valid concern. But I don't think that Ryan is somebody who's going to, he's not going to be told what to do if he is HOH. On the other hand, the one time he was HOH, he basically did what the House wanted him to do and put his own allies up. And I had another point to make, but I've forgotten it. I just basically the concern that I have is that neither side can see at the same time that it's in their best interest to keep a player like Johnny in the house. And I really think that he is somebody who is just, even if he is slightly valuable to you, I feel like Paris, girl, get away, get in a room by yourself and think about it for a second, because he's such a stick of dynamite. You just don't want to play with somebody like that. I mean, he may be marginally better for your game in the short term in terms of maybe not going after you. But on the other hand, I just feel like he's such an ace to win the game if he makes it past this point, that it's such a bad call to keep him.
Yeah, it is, and it's also like you can maybe it's like you can maybe justify making the move if the move is we are going to save Johnny by ourselves and then have Johnny as a tool that we can use. But you can't even have that. You have to share Johnny with the other group that also agrees to do it, which is just such a difficult spot. It's unfortunate that this is a week with even numbers, because that allows Derek to break the tie. Otherwise, this would be a completely different conversation. I think Johnny can easily get 3 votes, just not 4. So it's unfortunate, but I guess hope is not necessarily lost. He still has some life in this game. He is not making it easy. He's not going down easy. He's trying to make it.
I remember what I wanted to say really quickly. The other thing that Allie's been preaching this to Paris and Will, if we keep Johnny, Johnny's definitely going to go after Dela, and Dela's because they're just going to put Johnny right back up. They're going to go after Johnny. I'm like, that is not true. If you outright keep somebody like this in the game, if you give your word that you're going to evict somebody and then you go back on it, now you're the betrayer. And now you're in the hot seat. Basically, you're switching places with the person. Now, Johnny may be such a threat that maybe they can get away with it. But if you outright betray Dela here and keep Johnny, I don't think there are any guarantees that if Kayla, by a miraculous coincidence, wins HOH next week to put Dela at 3 weeks in a row in the HOH suite, that she will go after Johnny. I think she'll be wanting her pound of flesh at that point and will go after the people who did not have her showmance's back the previous week.
Yeah, and Johnny is a good enough player to be able to, if he gets saved, go to Kayla and be like, look, we're cool. I got bigger fish to fry. You've got bigger fish to fry.
Can you imagine that? I think that's exactly what you would do, or I would do if I was in the house. If I was that guy, I would realize, this war is not going to benefit me or them. If I do this, I need to go to them and just pull off a move that nobody expects coming. Go to Dela, because how grateful would they be if I don't take a shot at them and go after somebody else in the house? So there ain't no guarantees that he's going to do what you want. Anyway, moving on.
Are we thinking that there's the possibility that maybe a move that could possibly work for Johnny to stay this week is to go to Dela, and then you've got Allie, Liv, and Kayla with Derek breaking the tie? Do we think there's any possibility that he could go to Dela and be like, look, those 3 have been in the a little whatever you want to call it this whole time, and you need my help to get them out? Or I don't know. I guess it's tough because they haven't really won anything. So it's hard to be these guys are a threat and you need help, because they're going to be like, well, we don't really need your help to get those guys out. We can get them out right away. So I don't know, but I feel like that would be a good move for him, is to try and pull a truce, unless he has Dela on board.
Yeah, I mean, his first move was to try and make a truce with Dela, and they were not biting at all because, again, it's really not even close to in their best interest to keep him. However, obviously, I think that, and I'd hope that Johnny sees this as well, that would be a final Hail Mary if it's clear that he doesn't have the 4 votes. I think that obviously you go, hey, look, Paris, Maddie, and Will were all on board to keep me so that I could go after you. You guys are in trouble if I leave. They have Ryan on board with them. You need me in this game. You need Allie and Liv. We all need to work together against Paris, Maddie, and Will. I don't think it will work. I don't think Kayla will believe him or trust him. But again, it's a Hail Mary if nothing else works. So I do agree it's worth a shot at the end.
Because plus, if he can get Allie and Liv on his side and then go to them being like, look, I've talked to Allie and Liv, or have Allie and Liv go to them and be like, look, I think this makes sense for us or something. I don't know. I just feel like there's got to be a way. I want Johnny to stay.
Well, right now it seems like confirmation happening. Johnny has officially flipped all 3 of Maddie, Paris, and Will. They are agreeing to keep him in the game. Who knows how much that'll stick? If in private conversations, Paris will continue to say that. But it seems like they've agreed at the moment. But again, he's kind of lost Allie and Liv a little bit. And of course, when they hear that all 3 of Maddie, Paris, and Will are willing to keep Johnny, then it's going to push them further away. So you got that... very dangerous seesaw going on.
If anything, you know what? This is where he earns his money. Honestly, John, I almost called you Johnny. This is where he earns his money, Taran. Because if he can pull this off, I mean, honey, I'll bow down to that.
Yeah.
That because on a week where there's 6 votes, it's an even number. He can't use the HOH to break a tie in his favor, most likely. I mean, it would be not levels of Dan's funeral, but it'd be up there. It'd be
very impressive. I don't know if I've seen somebody able to single-handedly dig themselves out of a hole this deep in a very long time. Maybe Vanessa season 17. But even then she had a little bit of fortuitous luck on her side that some other people dropped the ball. Whereas this is pure Johnny right now. So very, very impressive stuff that he's even getting this close.
I hope that it's more like that and not more like Amanda on season 15 when Alyssa aligned with her and we were like, oh my God, she might stay. Like the 2 queens might align, and then Andy just took it all away from us.
Nah. All right. So even if Johnny fails to save himself this week, which I still think is more likely to happen than not, there's not necessarily all hope is lost on the twist front. We've seen some leaked footage from the diary, from the feeds of people working on the tomb. There's some light in the tomb, and they are no longer allowed to open the tomb. So I think they've pretty clearly done something with the tomb. We have assumed that there was going to be some kind of twist involved with it at some point in the season. It seems like it will be coming up soon. I don't think it'll happen this week, but because my reasoning is that the Canada save was valid for 2 weeks. So I don't think they would have combined if theoretically people didn't vote to use it the first week. I don't think they would have had 2 twists in the same week. Not that I'd put that past them, but I have to imagine it's at least next week, if not further down the line, if it's some sort of jury buyback or something else. I've seen some theories, but what do you guys think? Do you guys have any theories about what this could be? No.
I have no idea.
I don't either, because I was thinking that I honestly think that maybe it won't be next week. Maybe they were just cleaning the water in there or something. Maybe. But I think what's more likely is that next week is a triple eviction. I'm sorry, not triple. Don't say that, Brent. Double eviction. I think next week is a double eviction. So that'll put 3 people in jury. And then maybe the tomb brings somebody back, because Arissa said at the beginning of the season that a ghost lurks in there. And I feel like it's very like Outcast, Pearl Islands, Twisty, where, somebody who's voted out can come back into the game. So I have to believe it's going to be something like that. It can't be right now, though, because they only have Johnny in the jury.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If he's evicted, I mean.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, they've done buybacks more often than they haven't on Big Brother Canada. So, unless it's just a trend that they're not doing buybacks as much, it would be kind of surprising if it wasn't a buyback. But it does seem like it's probably more likely to be some kind of maybe power that comes out of the tomb, or maybe there's a quote unquote ghost that comes out and gives you a clue to go search for a thing, and something or other.
I hope it's fun, and I hope they let us see it. But I can
probably
dream.
not either.
Yeah, I feel like
I don't
it's none of
understand.
those things.
Honestly, I will have. This is no. I've got my little list of questions here for Rob to ask to the producers if he gets to sit down with them again sometime. So I would say, well, you let us see that on season 2 when Allie got to go around the house looking for the damn veto. Like, that was great. Why can't we see more stuff like that? Like, I mean, why would you want to hide that from us? It didn't take away anything from the show. In fact, I was more excited to watch that episode than anything because I wanted to see what was in the damn room.
Yeah. Well, I think they've changed their attitudes over the course of time, unfortunately. Starlet says, I think it's a past player coming to visit like Dan did in season 1.
Okay.
Maybe they give a power to somebody. Maybe they give advice. Who knows? It's certainly possible. That would fit the ghost theme, I guess.
Yeah.
So... God, I could picture it being somebody like Erica to pop out and be like, look, I've watched all of the footage. Here's some information. I honestly would not put it past them.
I know, right? Yep.
I agree. Could totally happen. I want to just not say anything because I want it to be nothing. I want it to just be nothing, and nothing happens, and we all just thought they were doing something with it, and they weren't.
Well, I feel like we forecasted the potential Canada jury enough that it definitely didn't happen. So I feel like the more we talk about it, probably the better.
Right. I remember when people were laughing, like, there's no way they're going to do a jury of 7. Like, when was the last time they ever did a jury of 7 on Survivor or Big Brother? And
it's been a while.
Yeah. So, I mean, of course, the one time they do it, somebody like Erica is evicted from the house and is not on the jury. But I am pretty psyched about a jury of 7 because each one of those votes is just deathly important.
Yes, that's something we should talk about because we now have official confirmation for the LFC Roundtable. We will have a jury of 7. Maybe we should just set up for anybody that maybe is new to the show and hasn't seen a jury of 7 why we prefer it. There was a question from Tom Palmer, which I think helps describe why we prefer juries of 7. But Tom says, with fewer jury votes this year and less of a chance of groupthink, what do you think each of the individual jurors will be looking for? And that really does sort of exemplify why we prefer juries of 7. With the jury of 9, we see a lot more, big group number votes. So like
side.
Yeah,
we see sides. Yeah,
exactly. Like big 5 7-2 votes, 6-3 vote. It's they're more likely to just fall under, well, I'm on this side, I'm voting for this person, versus obviously that can happen in a 7-person jury, but with a 7-person jury you feel like your vote matters a little bit more, and you feel like you have a little bit more power, which makes you feel like, all right, well, let me assess on my own criteria and understand who I want to vote for, and I feel like it ends up with better votes most of the time. Obviously nothing's perfect, but yes, and obviously as Richie points out in the chat, Paul wins twice with the jury of 7. Obviously all other elements erased from that situation, he would theoretically win with a 7-person jury because the extra 2 votes were the votes he lost.
Yeah, I'll say that season 12, I always get 12 and 13 mixed up. Sorry, I shouldn't, because I know Rachel won 13. Season 12 was the season where what was a runaway victory for me for Hayden turned into a nail biter when Rachel and Brendan decided to vote for Lane out of nowhere, and I'm like, that tells you how much a jury of 7 can really change the dynamics of the finale.
Yeah, and it also gives them a little bit more time for individual questions when they question the final 2. It gives us a little bit more of an understanding of why somebody voted a certain way. It's just generally better overall. very happy to see it. I have to imagine it was for budgeting reasons. I don't think any fan was like really calling for a 7-person jury. But I'm glad that we inadvertently got one. But let's answer Tom's question here. What do we think that the jurors will be looking for in the final two? If they're a 7-person jury, their vote matters a little bit more. What are they going to be looking for when they vote for the winner of Big Brother Canada 6, Melissa?
Well, I hope they're not looking for loyalty. I hope they're not looking for you worked with me and you didn't lie and you were honest and da-da-da. And so I'm hoping that they're actually looking for, good gameplay. And I think that they will, as long as it's like, because you've got Kayla, who I think respects good gameplay, and Paris and Maddie, who respect good gameplay. And I think Ryan would too. So I think that I'm hoping that with this jury, we get people who want good gameplay and that they're not, bitter about it. And they're not looking for people who worked with them and just want to reward their friends. So, that's my hope.
Yeah, I think that it's also needs to be said that it's modern day Big Brother, and you're going to have a little bit of fire in your game. You're going to have a comp win or two. You're going to have a little bit of fire. Somebody like Paris or Maddie at this point looks great from where we're sitting, but in the house, not so much. Somebody like Ryan, I think, would win over both of them at this point, because people would be like, well, you know what? He's got more skin in the game. So Paris, I know she's, this is what I was complaining on the show last night. Everyone's trying to play a really safe game. What have many of these people done? What has Allie done? She's been trying to make sure she's safe on all sides. So they're going to have some skin in the game. I'm hopeful that if Johnny is evicted this week, that basically some cards start to be shown, and it forces somebody like Paris to get her butt in the game a little bit more. I know she's been playing a great social game. Her social game has been mighty, so good for that. But you got to have a win. You got to have an HOH here or there to direct the course of things. Otherwise, you just can't win at the end. I would be stunned if a player could literally pull a Dr. Will in this day and age, where they didn't win squat and get to the end of the game and pull it off. Maybe somebody like Paris can, because I feel like she's a fan of the show and she can talk her way out of anything. But they've lived with her. Maybe if they don't respect her, I don't know that they're going to give it to her.
The key has to be that she has to be able to explain every aspect of her game. And I feel like nowadays they barely give them time to say anything. They barely give them the ability to answer actual questions rather than those like pre-printed ones on the cards. And so I feel like it's a lot harder to do that strategy these days, because nowadays you really don't have the opportunity to explain yourself. And if you play a game like that, where it's not so overt and you're not right out there in the forefront for everything, you need to be able to explain yourself. You need to be able to say, look at all these things I did, and this is the reason why I did them, and this is how they helped me get to this point. And it's near impossible, which sucks.
Yeah, Tara, I will say that I thought Josh did a great job last year. I know the votes were locked in, believe me, or maybe 8 out of the 9 might have been locked in. Jason's might have been up for grabs. But I know that I felt like Josh performed really well during the questions last year, and Paul did not. Paul did not respond great to the questions at all. So even though it is a compressed amount of time, I still feel like there is enough time to either validate people's perceptions of you and where they were going to vote, or to validate them the other way and say, you know what, I didn't want to vote for you, and now I definitely know that.
Yeah, I feel like very, very few people are actually going to change their minds based on, like, no matter what impression you give, and you are more likely to give an impression that validates their belief than invalidates their belief, just based on their perception and how they treat the final two member, to generate the kind of response that would validate their belief. But yeah, it is obviously we say it every year. We would love for more time for jury questioning, but I think another aspect of it is, especially with Big Brother Canada, I think one of the reasons why competitions are more valued is because competitions aren't the major power. Twists are the major power. So, like, by benefiting from a twist, that is like the ultimate thing. So, like, Ryan is getting major kudos in the house, and is definitely in a position where he could win in the final two, largely based on the fact that he got saved by Canada. So that's like the ultimate thing. So then, if you don't have any competition wins, it's like you didn't benefit from a twist, you have no competition competitions when what did you even do in this game? So I think that's another aspect of why the competitions tend to matter a little bit more, especially in Big Brother Canada. And yeah, I feel like I do feel like one positive for this season and this cast right now is that there aren't big groups. I don't think there's any one person that gets more than 2 votes based on their alliances in the house. I think at best somebody like Will might get Paris and Maddie. But even then, they're pretty dysfunctional. I don't know if they definitely vote for each other in the end. And then obviously Ali and Liv, they have each other for sure. I think, but even them, they're kind of like, they complain about each other sometimes. Dela, obviously, they would vote for each other. But other than that, there are no like totally locked in votes for somebody based on loyalty or allegiance, which I think is a good thing.
Yeah, I think so too. I was looking at what Tracy Burke said in the chat. The house guests are fed up with the baby talk. Paris needs to regain some respect. I do agree. I know you saw the show with Ika last night where she did the Paris impression. She was just like, hey guys, how you doing?
That was great.
Yeah, I know, right? It was so Paris. Because we know the real Paris. And I mean, I know that there are elements of her within the house, but she has not showed them what she's shown us, or even when I saw preseason. She's acted a little bit neutered, and I feel like she needs to reveal some of her fire in order to have a shot to win the game.
I do think that Johnny, if he goes home, which is likely, I think he'll have a lot of influence. Not only will he be the first member of the jury, but he was obviously somebody with a lot of influence in the house when he was still there. This is the kind of player, almost like a Shannon Elizabeth, where like you had a lot of potential, you went out kind of early, but now you have a lot of means and motivation to influence the jury in the way that you want it to go. So really, if people think that Johnny will be on his way out the door, they should be campaigning hard for his vote. I think he is probably the most important jury member because he doesn't have any allegiance or alliances in this house. He's not going to be voting based on loyalty. He's going to be voting based on the criteria that he conjures up, and he's going to be arguing for that criteria with every single juror member that comes into the jury after him. So people should be very, very, very diligent about trying to manage Johnny's vote here.
Yeah, let's see if we can see some good jury management. The hilarious part is that the person who's been doing the best job at jury management, Melissa, is Johnny. Yeah. But the people who he was managing to were not on the jury. Marin's like chilling at home. Erica is doing interviews. Like they're not there.
Yeah. Definitely unfortunate because that was some pretty impressive jury management.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I'm seeing in the chat, people feel like Ryan, he'll probably vote for and campaign for Ryan. I agree. I think that the last person Johnny did jury management with was Ryan, and it kind of goes both ways. So now if Johnny leaves, I feel like he feels pretty good about Ryan. So again, just more evidence of a potential Ryan win.
Right.
Let's see. Let's just briefly update you on the alliances in the house. Very simple this time. It's getting simpler and simpler each week. We've got Dela. They're together. We've got Ali and Liv, they're together, and you got Paris, Maddie, and Will. And then between those groups, Dela is in the middle, right? So Dela has deals with both Ali and Liv and Paris, Maddie, and Will. And there's a lot of fractures. There's a lot of potential of, Paris, Maddie, and Will are now thinking about keeping Johnny, which would be going against Dela, so on and so forth. And that's really the basic structure of the house right now. If the edit can't get this one right, then I don't know what they're doing, Melissa.
Yeah, seriously. They need help if they can't get this one simple one down. I mean, it's been very sad to see the lack of what we're seeing on the actual edited show, but oh well.
Yeah, I'll just go back to what you said on the Feeds update when you were criticizing Rob and Ika and myself earlier today. I will say that I feel like you just indicted yourself by saying, like, it gets simpler and simpler each week. Taran, it was complicated. I'm sorry.
Right. I'm not denying that it was complicated, but what I'm saying is that we've had many seasons that it's been just as season 10 was a very complicated season, and yet it's widely considered to be one of the best seasons.
I agree,
but it portray it in the correct way.
It felt two sides to me. There's never been a point in time where they could ever make this about two sides. I always felt like Big Brother 10 was two sides, and I know that's not true. But I felt that way. And I felt like the show sort of liked it that way. It was like, I can't remember their names. Oh my God. It was like Ollie and April and Michelle and whoever the hell over on that side, and Keisha and everybody else, all the fun people were over here, except I love Michelle. So anyway, but it was like there were two sides, and then Dan was sort of in the middle a little bit. He was like pretending to be dead, but it was basically two sides to me. And also, Big Brother 7, that at times felt like two sides to me. It was basically season 6 versus everybody else. And I do feel like this season, to defend Rob and Ika a little bit, and not to say that I was a total fanboy last night, because I was, but I do feel like that it has been tough to depict. And I know that we have been dogging the editors, but even I at times, when your update is 50 minutes long, there's a lot of shit happening. And there's so many different ways people are intermingling. And I feel like it's just very tough. I feel like it's very tough for them to depict. Go ahead.
Sure, I think it's difficult, but it's also their job, and I don't think that we should blame the cast or blame the structure of the house. I think that we should blame them for not being up for the job that the US version does quite well. And I think that a large part of why they're failing is because they're dedicating so much time to not portraying what's happening, and instead have these 10-minute segments on ads and silly stuff that we don't need. If they didn't spend so much time doing that, I think they would have a much easier time portraying. Season 2 was a somewhat complicated structure of Big Brother Canada, and they managed to edit that fine. And that's because they didn't spend half the episode playing basketball and eating Wendy's. And so, so I feel like,
what would you like? What are you feeling tonight? Oh, I'm thinking about the Frosty. I want the big bacon cheese.
Just read the whole menu.
Oh, God, Lord.
What do you want?
I feel like this cast is giving us what we want. The editors are just failing to provide the TV viewers with that. And that said, I know that there are a lot of people that have really enjoyed the season, at least up until now. And I know the ratings are up. This is the second highest rated season of Big Brother Canada ever so far. So I don't think they're even failing that much. I do think that that this could be a better season, and I think that would have a lot to do with the editing.
I'll just say something that I wasn't going to say last night. The cast, I feel like many of them are playing really good games, but they're boring games. But they're still good games. And that's what I couldn't say to Ika last night, in a way, because I wanted to say, you know what, when she was out there, giving it to him, that was great. And I was living for that. But on the other hand, it's not necessarily what I would tell someone to do if they were going to go on a reality show, is to act like that, she totally played the shit out of that game last season and absolutely ruled it from start to finish. But I feel like that she was a little lucky at times that things didn't turn against her, because she definitely had her ass out there for a little bit of the time.
Yeah. And obviously, past players have more incentive to blame the current players and be like, we were great, and it's these guys' fault that the season is bad this season.
Right.
So
I still stand Ika. Please, guys, don't come for me and don't go tweeting her and say, Brent's talking shit about you. Please, I'm not talking shit. I'm just saying that I agree with her that these people are more boring, and that's somewhat the fault of the editors. I feel like it's somewhat the fault of what is necessarily optimum gameplay. Paris is playing optimally right now, and that doesn't necessarily make for scintillating television, because you're not going to get into a fight with somebody and spill the tea if you're playing a great game on paper. Does that make sense?
Well, I think that's true, but I think that what has allowed this season to succeed, at least on the feeds up until the twist, was that there were multiple people playing optimally, which which causes even players like Johnny, like Paris, like Kayla, these players that are trying to play very well. It puts them in a corner because other people are also playing well, and that gets their blood rising. And you get a situation where like Allie, who is playing a pretty good game, gets into a big confrontation with Ryan. Things do explode in certain aspects, and I think that the game is interesting because there are good players who are being challenged, and I think that's the key to it. And I think that's what has happened on this season up until now, where one of the very good players is in a position because of a twist where the odds are really stacked against him, and it's like if he succeeds, then that's great. That would be wonderful to watch, but it's probably not going to happen because the odds are too greatly stacked against him. Right. But I think the point is, like, the key to a successful season with good play is to have multiple good players, I think.
My main problem with the whole thing is that, I do feel like the casual viewers are blaming the players when I love the players. I love this cast, and it's the kind of cast that I would like to see more of, where it's a lot of people who love the game and understand the game and who want to play a good game and want to win and want to do what it takes. And maybe they're not as flashy, but like, I personally don't care. And I have just as much fun watching them on the feeds as I do players who, are more flashy, because it's the feeds and it's just fun for me to see good gameplay. But the edited show is just so bad. It's so bad to me. And I know some people are enjoying it, but I'm having no fun watching the edited show because I don't care about most of it. And normally it's like, oh, well, why would you care about it anyway? Because you see the stuff on the feeds. So who cares about the edited show? But it really does make a difference when you see what you saw on the feeds on the edited show interspliced with diary room sessions, and and you get to see what they're actually thinking of when they're telling someone one thing, and then they're actually thinking another thing, and then you get to see the competitions. And I do enjoy typically the shows, but I feel like the shows right now, the edited shows, are like, why should I bother? Because none of the things that they're showing me really matter to the game at all. And I understand they need these sponsorships or whatever, but I'm not here to watch a giant commercial. And I feel like that's all I'm doing. And I like the ones where they put it as part of the competition. Like, I'm all for that. The Wendy's competition, the one where they had to deliver stuff, like, go for it. I like that stuff. But I don't like the fact that we're spending all this time. I mean, this isn't even a sponsorship. The basketball thing, and
sponsored by basketball,
and the stuff where it's the Wendy's thing and all that. And it's like, I just don't really, that stuff doesn't affect the game at all. So I don't care about it. And it's also not really fun for me to watch it. So I feel like there's no point for me to watch the edited shows anymore. And I just want to watch the feeds. And that's probably what I would be doing if I wasn't podcasting about it.
Right.
Yeah. Doom in the chat said, don't hate the players, hate the poorly edited game.
No, it's true. Because it makes me sad when people are like, these players are so boring, nothing's happening. And it's like, no, there's a ton of stuff happening, but they're not showing any of it.
Okay, can I be Ica for a second? So this is what Ica was saying last night. Ica and Demetrius were both saying this on the show last night. Okay, why are they throwing Ryan up on the block? Leave him alone. He's been on the block 4 times. I want to see what other people can do. So Taran, what would be your response to why does Ryan keep ending up on the block?
I mean, because that happens every season.
Exactly. I wanted to tell them last night, like, do you not remember last season when, Karen voted with you right before the triple eviction, and then you went to Demetrius after he won, and you were like, we can't put Karen up on the block after what she gave us last night. There's some loyalty there. I mean, the people who are good with you, you don't put them up on the block. So, the thing is that Ryan isn't good with many of the people in the house. That's why he ends up on the block. I feel like he doesn't have any strong bonds with people in the house. He's not in a twosome or a threesome with anybody in the house, and that's why he continually ends up, because he's an easy placeholder to stick in there.
Yeah, I did like when I think it was Dimitri was like, you can't name a single mistake that Karen made in the game. I was like, what about when she kept you guys over Dylan, the guy that you said she had complete control over? I feel like that was maybe a mistake.
That was more fun. We love Karen. That was the right move, Karen. Don't listen to him. Power to the people.
But yeah, I feel like the way that the Big Brother Canada likes to edit their seasons is they like to pick a couple of people and just run with them. Big Brother Canada 2, it was Netta and John. Big Brother Canada 3, it was Sarah and Brittany. Big Brother Canada 4, it was Tim and Cassandra. 5, it was Ika and Dimitri. And that is how they structure their seasons. And I feel like they took a risk with they were able to pick less people because I think they went for Hamza. I think Hamza was their pick for, we're going to run with Hamza. They were building him up, and then boom, he was gone in the double. And I think that Erica was another person that they were kind of building up, and then boom, they took her. They themselves took her out in the twist. And so now they're kind of like, all right, so we're all in on Ryan. Like Ryan is our guy this season, and that just doesn't really fit. So it's and I feel like they have less opportunity to pivot onto somebody else because they had less chips to begin with to go all in with people because they've had less time to invest in all of the other characters, and so it's hard for them to pivot off of off of Hamza, who was all over the early show. That's why we didn't get more of Will, of Johnny, of all of these people that could have had a bigger edit. So I think
they were interested in Maddie at first too.
Yes,
and then
Maddie's
they were like, "Oh shoot!"
They tried really hard to go all in on Maddie, and she just wouldn't give them. It was a poor choice, and they didn't.
Where's the Maddie from preseason? I'm sorry, that's a terrible question, but like, where has she been? I mean, she's nowhere to be found. That was a total fraud. That was like Parhar levels of fraudness with her going in the house. Okay, which I'm not no some shade at JP. He owns that shit. He's like, I was like totally blowing smoke up their ass that I was like some young Republican conservative and was going to fight in the house. He's like, of course I really wasn't going to do that. But I mean, like, but this Maddie that's in the house right now bears no resemblance to the Maddie on the outside.
Well, I think Maddie is the person that she represented herself to be. I see Maddie as like is somebody, an introvert who would like watches the show, and in real life she's like a more shy person, maybe or maybe just like that's how she is in Big Brother. But like I think she is that snarky person. I think if she comes online, she comes on Twitter, she'll probably be great on Twitter. She'll probably be great in podcasts. But just like in person in the game, she just doesn't have the social. I don't even want to say social skills because I'm sure she has them. But like again, like there's just like a wall there that just it's not working.
She doesn't have the swagger. Like Bill says in the chat, Maddie needs to be reunited with her soul, which is in the tomb. I agree that it feels like that sometimes, that there's a little bit of something missing. It sounds like I'm dogging her, but you know what? I dog Will, so I can dog Maddie. I'm not picking on her. Like, I mean, we've said this before, that it often feels like a job interview when she's trying to, make bonds with people, or if she's trying to talk to an HOH who might think about nominating her. It never feels authentic. It feels forced. It feels cringy. And, you can't objectively watch it and not say that. So, I mean... Yeah.
Maddie's still one of my favorite people in the house. And I think that when she gets out of the house, she'll be, again, I think she'll be great. But yeah, she has been disappointing in the house. She hasn't really been able to do even now, like just earlier today, I think she was talking to the cameras saying I can't wait for people to catch on to all of the stuff that I've done because my game is so great. And it's
You're like, wait, what? What's
and like that is the Maddie we want to see, but we wish that it had been backed up by a little bit more, right? So again, like I love Maddie. I think she's a great person, but as a player in the game, it's just not clicking, and it's unfortunate.
I feel like just because you're lasting a long time in the game doesn't mean you're actually doing anything, and I think that that's where Maddie's like struggling to see that she's like not as impressive as she thinks she is because she's not really doing anything. I feel like everyone around her is doing a lot of stuff, and she's, thinking that because she lasted week to week, it's due to her own devices, when really it's like Johnny running in and stopping Olivia, or like, Paris going in and getting her off the block, and like she's not really doing anything.
Well, it's funny because she is a fan of the show, and this happens all the time with fans of the show, where they would see somebody like Maddie, see that she has stayed in the game for so long, and they would, after the fact, results oriented, go back and say, look at all the things she's done right to get to this point. Especially if she made it toward the end, maybe even if she won by a fluke vote, people will be like, wow, look how great Maddie is. Maddie's doing that to herself in the house, and it's preventing the audience from doing it for her. So like it's an interesting situation with Maddie.
I will say that, you know who Maddie reminds me of, and I don't know if you guys are going to go with me on this. She reminds me a little bit of Ian, like how he was always in the dark. I felt like in the latter stages of Big Brother 14, never really had a handle on what the reality of what was happening around him, but somehow fluked his way to the end and won. I mean, not that it was a fluke. And by the way, I think the player today, Ian, is a god of a player, but he can own that there were times in Big Brother 14 where he did not know what was going on, but yet benefited from it. Go ahead.
And then he shows that strategy thing in the end, and everyone's like, whoa, this whole time he was planning this. And that's exactly what's going to happen with Maddie. Is she's going to have like one of those booklets like that her friend on Twitter is going to show and be like, look, this was her strategy all along. Like, and it's just going to totally lay out exactly what she did. And, you know, we'll all be impressed and thinking of her as like a god player.
And people will forget that she had no idea what she was doing.
Yeah.
Just like Ian. If Maddie was better at competitions, I think she'd be a shoo-in for Ian.
I think what you have to do is before you go in the house is write out like 10 different strategy pages and like date them or whatever. So that way when you come out and you're like, look, this is the strategy I did. And it's like you just pick the one that actually worked for you.
Yeah, I mean, we never got the the post Big Brother 17 strategy blog from Vanessa that was going to detail out everything that she did. I think she lost the motivation. Yeah,
exactly. The victor writes the story.
All right, and then people wondering why Ika doesn't like me or Melissa. Look.
I'm wondering.
And why I didn't defend you. Go ahead.
Well, we know why you didn't defend us.
We just have to keep it very vague.
Your mouth was full. What I've been told, and this may or may not be true. Apparently, she listened to our podcast about casting Big Brother Canada 5, and Brent was the only one who had her on his list of people that he would cast on a returning.
I think I cast her.
Yeah, I had her number 1. I think a couple of you had her, but
I definitely had her on my list.
Brent was the most positive, I guess. I don't know.
Because I looked at it through a different lens, as we often did when we do those things. You know, we haven't done one of those things in a while. I know we're too busy right now, but we'll do one eventually. Where, like, you know, you come up with something to do for a ranking show, but yet the criteria is however you want to interpret it. Sort of like the Constitution, where, you know, a liberal can interpret it one way and a conservative can interpret it another way, but it's the same words. Obviously, when we were doing that ranking show, I was looking at, you know, who was the best from a TV perspective, not just from a gameplay perspective, who could see the layout of the house or who has the balls to do something. I thought Ika was just casting gold, and so that's why I placed her number 1. You know, I wasn't saying that she was necessarily the most optimal player in the house, but I don't want to see the most optimal player in the house all the time.
Yeah, well, I think that Ika and Dimitri should like me a lot, because I had Dimitri's on my list and I was backing him from the get-go, saying he was going to be good, and no one else had faith in him.
That's true.
You know, there we go.
We thought he was a douche canoe. We did.
I didn't.
Yeah,
I said I thought he was charming and funny, and you know, there you go. Actually liked
what I said was
I'm not.
What I said was I feel like that makes it more likely that Ika wouldn't like you.
Yeah, which there you go. It's totally possible.
By the way, I was just to be clear, because there's so many people who came after me on Twitter about this. I mean, I'm sorry if you guys couldn't pick up the obvious fun that we were having last night. I mean, maybe it was a little too subtle for some people. Right? No, not you guys. I'm talking about the fans. The fans out there were like, you know, Brent, why were you not saying something to back up Taran? Like, you know, he's your boy. Like, Ika was being pretty rough on it, and the shade that she was throwing made me uncomfortable. And I'm like, first of all, that's just how Ika is. She's gonna, you know, she's not gonna give you an inch. She's not going to, you know, dislike somebody. And then, you know, after Rob says something nice, you know, like, oh, but you guys are cool, right? She's not the person who's going to say, oh, yeah, we're cool. She's going to say, no, we're we ain't good. What you talking about? Moving on. Next subject. Like, that's how she is. And so that's what it was like with Taran. She's like, she's not. Once she said she was not into you, Taran, she was not going to then say later on in the podcast, oh, well, I'll give him a chance. No, she was like, I'm not having it.
Yeah, and for the record, I am very much in the light of Kevin Martin here, where it's like I feel honored. Yes. Iko Wong feels the need to shade me of all people. I feel like that's some sort of rite of passage somewhere, right?
And you're right, by the way. My mouth was full last night, but only from thirst. Because Dimitri, man, that dude is huge. You see him when he had his arms crossed like this. I mean, oh man, like, and she's so gorgeous and so thin. Like, I mean, they were just like, they looked amazing together. Anyway, go ahead.
Matt Ligori made a very creepy Photoshop of my face on Dimitri's face in a picture with Dimitri's and Ika. And first of all, I was creeped out and very weirded out by Matt. Why would you do that? But then my second reaction was like, oh man, those Gaines goals though. Like,
that could be me.
Got to work on that.
You just make that picture your profile picture now.
Yeah.
No one will be able to tell.
Someday, like 2 years from now. All right. So let's get into the stock watch here. We've got some interesting stuff going on with the stock watch. We'll start with Allie. We'll go alphabetical again. Last week we had Brent, you were up on Allie. Melissa, you were also up on Allie. I was down on Allie. I felt like it would have been a down week for her. Melissa, how do you feel about Allie's position now? You still have one stock in Allie.
I'm up on Allie this week. I think that, I think she's in a position right now where people aren't really thinking about her, and I don't think she's the next to go if really anyone wins HOH next week. So I think that she's in a good position right now. And I think that especially because like her beef with Ryan is long forgotten, I feel. And I think that she's in pretty good with most people, or at least isn't first on their radar. So I got to say up.
I mean, we're talking about Allie, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna say down. I just don't like where her game is right now. I mean, she so could have been a contender, honestly. And she could have been a contender, but she's not. I don't feel like she is a contender anymore. She may yet be. If maybe Liv gets evicted and she's by herself, obviously I feel like her prospects are pretty good at that point. But right now, I can't say that I like what she's given me, and she's so aggressive. You're so right, Taran. I watch her when she's talking to Paris and Will about trying to keep Johnny in the house, and she's just terrible. Like, honey, calm down. Like, I mean, like there's a way to go about this. Like, you've got like 5 days in front of you. Like, use them. Anyway, yeah, so down.
Yeah, I feel like this was a bad week for Allie. Again, we've talked about this, but I feel like having Erica go home and now having Johnny potentially go home, it's all bad for Allie. She now has the opportunity. Again, as we were speaking, it seems like there is some confirmation that Paris is actually on board to keep Johnny. So Johnny has those 3 votes now locked in, which gives Allie the opportunity. I do feel like if anybody benefits from keeping Johnny, it's Allie. That said, even then it's kind of touchy. Right. But there is a way that she could play this where she can put the blame on Paris and Will and Maddie and make them the threats, and take away some of their power with Ryan, and come away a little bit clean. But overall, I do feel like her game has gone down a bit more because of she was in such a great position a couple of weeks ago, and I just feel like it continues to go down and down and down. So you will not be trading your Allie stock, Melissa?
No, I'm keeping it.
All right, let's move on to Derek. We were all up on Derek last week. He now has since won the HOH. He is potentially getting Johnny out of the house. I feel like for me, things still kind of looking up for Derek. I feel like his chances of winning this game have only increased. He's won some competitions, but I still feel like Kayla goes before him. And I feel like his ability to win the game now is a bit higher if he has Johnny on his resume. Melissa, what do you think?
Yeah, I think Derek is up this week. I think that while it does put him more on the radar to go before Kayla, the fact that he's now won 2 competitions, I still don't think that he's surpassed Kayla on the radar. So I think that she would probably still go first if possible. And so I think that goes in his favor. And at the same time, now he has things to put on his resume in the end. Whereas before, he really didn't have much of anything and no one could really point to anything. And at least now he can say he's won an HOH and a veto, which is more than people like Maddie or Paris has done. And so I am also going to buy a Derek stock.
There you go. I've put up the table. So anybody watching live can hopefully see this. You can see the totals of shares that we have in the stocks, and also whether we were up or down. Again, we must thank the great Alexandra W on Twitter for helping us out with this very, very useful chart here. So Brent, what do you think about Derek?
I'm going to rate him up. I am tempted to buy him, I have to tell you, but I am not going to do so. I guess I don't want to believe it, that after such a great season of great female players, that it ends up with a Wilson win. I just can't, and I won't believe it.
Yes,
but I'll rate him up though.
All right, so Melissa buying some Derek stock. I'm tempted to.
You used to own one, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. I traded it away, but I think I might come back to Derek. We'll see.
Okay.
Let's move on first to Johnny. Johnny, I have 2 shares of stock in Johnny. Melissa has 1. Obviously, this is a down week for Johnny, for me at least. He's looking pretty bad here for Johnny. Melissa, what do you think?
Yeah, it is definitely down for Johnny. Not great. The thing is, though, is that I'm really struggling as to whether or not I should trade my Johnny stock, because I think there's a possibility he stays. I mean, I know we still have a little bit of time and anything could happen, but the fact that people are waffling so much on this means that there really is a chance he could stay. And I don't want to lose. I don't want to lose this stock in case he goes or in case he stays. So I'm still thinking about this trade right now.
I don't want to help you out too much, but there's not a lot of downside to trading it away and then bringing it back if he stays.
Well, I will push back on that a little bit, because I realize that right now we're able to basically, sort of like rig. I don't want to say rig the game for us, but unless there's a double or a triple, we can basically evict or have who we want. Like if somebody looks like they're about to be evicted, we can trade them away. But the game's going to pick up here at the end, where people, things are moving at a brisk pace. So I feel like at this point, you need to start setting yourself up for the win at the end. So, not to put any doubt in your mind, Melissa, but you have one.
Oh, man. Let me think about this.
Okay. Yeah, but I obviously rate him down. I don't think anybody could have a worse week than Johnny.
All right. Well, I am going to trade one share of Johnny away. I don't want to risk two shares going. And like I said, I feel like Johnny is the most likely person to go home here. So there's not a whole lot of upside to holding on to. I
feel like they're just spinning their wheels at this point. Like this is what happens when like everything's decided by by Monday or by Sunday, where they just like they're bored. I feel like, and they want to play Big Brother. So like, well, what could we do? Well, we could keep Johnny. How cool would that be? Come on. Like, I mean, I do feel like ultimately he'll be evicted, but.
All right. You guys have convinced me. I'll trade my Johnny. I'll buy him back next week if I can.
All right, so we're all down on Johnny, and we're trading his stock away in preparation for his potential eviction this week. Let's move on to Kayla, who we all agreed had a good week last week. Has she continued the trend? Derek obviously wins HOH. That was huge. I have to say for myself, I think that this was definitely a net benefit for her game. And honestly, even if Johnny stays, this was very good for her game, I think. I think she was in a lot of trouble if a lot of other people had won HOH. So the Derek win is very good, even though she still remains in a decent amount of trouble moving forward, especially if Johnny does stay. I do feel like this was an improvement from last week. Melissa, you agree?
Yeah, I agree. I think that after last week, it could have gone really, really terribly for her. So really anything other than that is a good week for her. So I'm up on Kayla this week, and I'm not going to trade her stock.
Yeah, I'm up on Kayla as well. I don't think. I thought Johnny had one of the worst weeks. I think Kayla had a great week, not just because of the fact that her boyfriend won HOH, but also because her boyfriend won veto, meaning that if they end up on the block together, there's at least a conversation to be had about who goes home. I think previously I would have thought always Kayla would have gone home before Derek, but now that he has won both HOH and POV in the same week, and I don't know. Maybe I missed it, but I don't know what this veto, and I know it was was it a knockout competition, but I don't know how physical it was. If they are starting to fear Derek, that's good for Kayla, because it's possible that if they end up on the block together, he goes home, she stays in the house, and usually the second half of a showmance that's left over usually has a good bit of rope to play a good game. So I'm positive on Kayla.
All right. So let's quickly move on to Liv here. We all own some shares of Liv. I've got 2, Brent has 2, and Melissa has 1. I was down on her last week. Brent and Melissa, you were both up on her. Melissa, how do you feel about Liv this week?
I feel like I'm up on her again. I think that she's still in a good spot generally, and I think that people aren't going to go after her right away. I think that she's not the first to go, especially even when you're looking just at her and Allie. I think Allie would go before Liv. So yeah, I'm up on her this week, but I'm not gonna buy any stock or trade it.
Yeah, I'm not going to trade any of my stock as well, but I'm also not going to buy any Liv stock. I am going to be down on Liv this week, mainly because I just feel like positionally she is worse off in the game, especially if Johnny goes home. Even if Johnny stays, it's tenuous. But on the plus side, like I said, I heard her say something where she said, I'm trying to remember exactly what she said. Oh, she's like, oh, wait, we used to have power. And I like the fact that she was able to recognize that, you know what, we kind of screwed up and we need to rectify that, because, a lot of people, they're just like, they sort of fall in love with the version of themselves. Hi, Maddie, that they think they are, not in reality what they are. And I feel like Liv is a realist and lives in the real world, where she evaluates her game on a day-to-day basis or even a week-to-week basis. And I enjoy that. But overall, down this week.
Yeah, I have to agree with Brent here.
Wait, say that again. I want to record that.
Note the have to. I feel like, again, similar to Allie, it's not like she is in dire straits necessarily, but I do think that she was in a very good position 2 weeks ago, and she's lost a lot of control and a lot of, I said, I think 2 weeks ago that she was in the best spot in the house, and over the course of the past 2 weeks, I think she has fallen to maybe around the middle of the pack, maybe like above average, but it's still down from where she was before. So I will also say down, but I will not be trading any of her stock quite yet. Let's move on to Maddie. None of us own any shares of Maddie.
Shocking.
I was up on her last week. You guys have been down on her for the last 4 weeks. Brent, what do you think about Maddie?
I mean, rinse and repeat. Maybe I should. I'm trying to be unbiased here and take an honest view of her game. I guess I should probably rate her up, because at least. Well, no, there are people coming after her. I was going to say, well, maybe there's not people coming after her directly, but there are people coming after her. I feel like Allie and Olivia just absolutely can't stand Maddie. They have a visceral reaction to her. But she just thinks she's playing a great game, so I don't know how we don't own any stock because she says she's playing a great game. You know what? I'm going to rate her down. I still don't like what I'm seeing from Maddie. She's never given me, as RuPaul says on RuPaul's Drag Race, like, we want players that are like the children in the streets are talking about their game. Okay. No one's talking about Maddie's game right now. So that's all you need to know.
Yeah, I've been saying that I feel like every week Maddie's in the house and she stays alive. Her stock goes up just because it was so low to begin with, and the longer you're in the house, the better your chances. However, I do think that this week was obviously it still goes up a little bit because she's still alive. But I think the net is that she goes down because she has become a target again. And I think she is actually probably, of anyone in the house, she is maybe the only person other than maybe Will, who actively benefits from Johnny staying in the house. I think that she is in a rough position without it, and I think that Johnny destabilizes things enough that that there are much bigger fish to fry than Maddie, especially with Johnny and Dela and Ali Liv and Paris Will. I feel like that is her best shot here moving forward. So I do have to say I am down on Maddie at the moment, but if Johnny stays, maybe I would have changed it to up. Melissa, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I have to go down on Maddie, even though I think she's probably in a better spot than she was like a few weeks ago. But at the same time, people are still talking about how they got to get her out. And I think that she's also an easy person to just throw up on the block and then vote her out because like people don't really care that much. And there's not really a fight to try and get her to stay besides Johnny. And I don't even know if he would do that anymore. So I think that, yeah, I have to rate her down.
All right, let's move on to Paris. Let's talk about Paris. Brent owns 3 shares of Paris stock. Melissa and I both own 1. We were all up on her game last week. It was a big improvement from the prior weeks, although I had been saying that it had been on the rise. And I have to say, for me, I think maybe it is a little bit down this week. I think that she had risen quite a bit last week, but this week I think that Ali and Liv kind of caught on to what Paris was doing. And I think that has put her in a more precarious position. Dela doesn't trust her quite as much as they did last week. So I do feel like for me, Paris has gone a little bit down. Melissa, how do you feel about her?
It's tough because, yeah, I feel like last week she was in a really good spot. The fact that she was able to influence Kayla so easily, and the fact that they still thought that they had her, as well as basically everybody else that they still had Paris. But yeah, I think you're right about the fact that people are kind of starting to catch on. And while I don't think that she's gone so far down, I do think she's just a little bit down from last week, when last week it was like so impressive.
Yeah, I'm going to do something crazy where I'm going to rate her down, but I'm going to buy. So, because I feel like she was at such a great place last week that I don't think that she could be playing a better game, but she's gone a little bit down this week. And if she's stupid enough to keep Johnny, I might not like this in hindsight, but I really don't believe at the end of the day that she's going to do that. I'm going to rate her down because she is marginally down from where she was, but I still think that her chances overall out of anybody in the house are such that it compels me to buy her at this point. So I'm going to buy some more Paris stock. And I'm only doing that because with the idea that we can trade and buy at the same time, given that I have 3 and you guys have, I think at the best 1. Yeah, each of you own one stock, that you could catch up to me. So this ensures that you cannot catch up to me.
Well, I am also going to be buying.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I'm back and forth between what I'm going to do with my traded stock as well. I don't want Brent to get away from me with Paris. I do feel like she is one of the top contenders, even if this week is a bit down. So I'll make my traded stock decision by the end of it. But for now, I will be purchasing 1 share of Paris. Melissa, are you biting here or no?
No.
All right. Let's move on to Ryan, who I feel like Ryan's stock, even though he's potentially going to leave this week, obviously he was on his way out the door last week. And I think his overall odds of winning have gone remarkably up. I think his chances of staying this week are much better than they were of him staying last week. So for me, Ryan's stock has gone from what had been pretty much zero for most of the game. It's gone to, it's skyrocketed for me. It's way up. Brent, what do you think?
Yeah, if he wasn't on the block, I would buy him, honestly.
Yeah.
That's the problem. I think we all are probably struggling with that we like where Ryan is in the game. Like I had already mentally moved on from like, okay, Johnny's going to be evicted and Ryan's going to be in the game. What's going to happen to him at that point? And I really liked where I see his game. But these people are so dumb that he might not even survive this week. He may not even have a chance to play the game that I think he could play, and he could play a winning game. So I can't buy him, even though I kind of want to, by virtue of the fact that he's in danger. And so I will rate him up, even though he's on the block, because I do believe he's in a much better position if these people do what's right for them. But I don't think they may not. Ugh.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to rate him up, but at the same time, I'm kind of disappointed because I really thought he would be able to like parlay the Canada's save into a better place in the game. But really, he just ended up right on the block again, which I was really thinking that he'd be able to be like, look, Canada voted for me to stay. They want me to be here. I'm like, you don't see what I'm doing on the side. I want to help you, or whatever he has to say to get them to not just throw him right back up on the block. I really thought that he wasn't going to be thrown right back up on the block, but he was. And so, yeah, I mean, while I would normally, after a Canada, I'm going to rank him up, but just not barely for me, at least.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, for me, this is the most dramatic change I think we've seen almost all season in terms of somebody's stock rising, and yet he is still potentially going home this week. That's how low he was, and how dramatically the twist impacted his stock price for me. Let's finish it off here with Will, who we were all higher on last week, but this week, is it the same story? Melissa, what do you think?
No, I'm rating him down. I was rating him up because I thought maybe Canada would save him. And also I just thought he was in a better position. But now he just like has a temper that he can't seem to control. He got angry with Ryan. I mean, we just saw it on the episode. And, you know, I think he's also making dumb game moves. I don't think that he's making any smart moves at this point or at any point. But you know, I'm going to buy a Will stock, partly because I'm hoping my curse does something, but also partly because he seems to still stick around and people are surprisingly not targeting him. I mean, even when he was just on the block, it didn't even seem close that he would potentially be targeted, which was really disappointing, which I thought people might actually try and target him, but they didn't. So yeah, I'm going to buy Will, but I don't know.
So you're doing the Brent thing where you're rating them down and then buying them.
Yeah,
I like
rating
so
them down.
It's catching on. See, I started that trend, Taran.
Yeah.
I'm gonna rate him down because he's starting to think. That's the problem. Like he's better when he's being told what to do. Like he's like exactly what you said, Taran. Like he's better when he is willing to be used in the game. Like, let yourself be used, honey. Don't start thinking. When you start doing the thinking, that's when problems come up. And the only time you decided to think previously was the week that Jesse went home. And I believe you lost positional advantage then.
Yeah.
And if you start thinking again, you're going to lose positional advantage again if you keep Johnny. The problem is I don't know where Johnny's loyalties lie. I think that's indicative of where Johnny is right now, in that his loyalties don't lie with anyone. If they keep him in the house, he'll do whatever the hell he wants, and he's not going to be indebted to Will. I don't think he will fear Will. I think he will feel like maybe he can rekindle something there, but I don't think he'll have Will's best interest at heart. And if he wants to win the game, he will not take Will to the final two. I think he thinks he might lose against Will. So no way.
Yeah, Will's position has definitely gone down. He was in a decent spot. I think that he was in a great position to head to the end of the game with Erica there. But the twist really Will is one of the people the twist kind of screwed over. So I will say down as well, which means we have reached the end of the stock watch, and I am going to go back and give Derek my traded Johnny stock. I'll bite back on the Derek train. So that's where we'll end up here for the stock watch.
Derek?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. So that's our week. Let's move on to some questions before we start to wrap this up here. We have one from Tom Palmer again, who asks, where does saving Ryan at the expense of Erica rank in worst production moves of all time, baby? Brent, you want to take this one?
It's just really, I have to believe that when they introduced this, that they had no idea what the ramifications were, because you have a dynamic female, strong presence in the house. It just boggles my mind that you would then want to get rid of her in favor of the straight, white, nerdy guy. Like the epitome of like what's on reality TV all the time. Like, why would you want to keep someone like that in the house? It's nothing against Ryan particularly. It's his archetype. Okay, that's the problem. And I just think they really blew it. And maybe once they unleashed it and they saw what was happening, but then again, they edited the show on Wednesday. That's the thing that goes through my head. If they ever thought, you know what, that we didn't know what was going to happen, well, then why did you give Ryan that freaking sympathy edit on Wednesday night, Melissa?
Yeah, I feel like the introduction of the twist itself wasn't such a bad thing, because I liked the fact that they gave us the option not to use it and wait till next week. And I don't think that the twist itself was really that bad. Plus, it wasn't like they got to remove themselves off the block and then they got to nominate someone. It was like still the HOH still got their HOH, and it wasn't just like a total flip flop of everything. But then that edit, like they didn't even hint for a second that Erica was going to go up on the block. So the viewers who are just watching the edited version aren't going to think that at all. I mean, you saw the casual reaction on Facebook and stuff where all the casual fans were like, what just happened? How did this happen? How is Erica gone? And people were really confused. And we all knew it was coming. We called it, but from the edit, you would have no idea. And I think that once again, the edit has been a problem.
Hey, Taran, I have a question for you. So look, you and I were saying beforehand that perhaps the twist wouldn't be used, but then we saw the votes and it only got like 10% or 11% or 12%. Okay. So it looks to me like no matter what, the twist is going to be used one way or the other, because people are just idiots and they like to screw with the game. However, if they don't give Ryan that sympathy edit, if instead they give it to Will, if Will is taken off the block, then what do you think happens at that point? Because I remember you talking about this on the Feeds update. Like, well, Ryan's still sitting there and Ryan's supposed to go home. Does Kayla just put a placeholder up there like Maddie and move on and evict Ryan? Or is she still compelled to want to switch her target and switch it onto Erica?
I think she probably still takes the shot at Erica, but maybe there's more of a chance that Allie and Liv decide to go against it. But because they obviously still want Ryan out of the house. But I think she would have taken the shot regardless, and I think that Erica probably would have gone home regardless. Okay. That said, I don't think it would have been used no matter what. I think that, and what I said was, I think that the editors or the producers will decide whether it will be used and who it will be used on if it is used. I think that there was an edit that could have been made, which was all about Johnny's decision to use the veto and Erica sitting, like potentially about to be backdoored, and Kayla maniacally laughing about like Johnny's about to fall from. I mean, similar to what they did with Kevin and William, where like they edited William to be like manipulating Kevin into potentially using the veto, and then backdooring, I think it was Bruno, where like where the audience is like, oh no, don't fall for it, Johnny. Don't use the veto. We don't want Erica to go up on the block. We don't want Kayla to get her way. And then like the option is, let's not give Kayla what she wants. Let's not use it so that she can't backdoor Erica. I think that really it's just the producers decide based on the edit they give. And I think the fact that they edited it in the way that they did I think it's very indicative of their overall mindset for the show, which is, we don't care about the long-term ramifications. We see an underdog Ryan edit. We see that would quote unquote shake things up. It would make for a dramatic one singular episode. So because we see this path, we're going to take this path. They don't have the self-control to be like, let's avoid these tasty looking cookies to move forward and get the full dessert later on. It's like, no, we got to eat our cookies now.
I think it's also a situation where, like say it's Ika or someone like that who's in the position that Erica was in. I think they might be like, no, we have to keep Ika around. We can't let her go like this. We need to keep her. Whereas Erica, I think, was just a good player and wasn't really bringing the good television or the drama or anything like that. So I don't think they care as much to keep her around longer. They don't really care like if we have good players in the end or anything like that. They care about how's the show looking, why are people watching, what's the draw. And so I think if an Ika character was there, like they would have maybe tried to edit it in a way that we would have hoped they would have done for Erica. But because it was Erica and someone that wasn't really some, out there character, they just didn't really care.
So I think that's where we landed there. This is seeing some updates on the feeds right now.
Okay.
Paris starting to waffle on her decision to keep Johnny to the cameras.
Right.
Meanwhile, Will is talking to Allie and trying to lock them in to continue to save Johnny. So more.
We literally will not know until the votes come in.
Because these are all terrible. Well, they're not all terrible, but there are a couple of terrible players who don't know what they're doing. They're liable to, even if they have saving Johnny in their sights, they're liable to screw it up with 6 people voting. So I was just thinking about what. Oh, sorry. I was thinking about what Melissa said about the fact if Erica was more of a presence on TV, if she was zestier television, basically, that they would have had more impetus to save her. I would like to think that. On the other hand, I remember ranting into a Periscope last season when Cass went home because of the stupid backwards week. I thought they were going to save her, and like they had a chance to save her. It's backwards week. Only maybe Cass stays, but no, Cass goes home, and then backwards week just gives the majority of the house what they want anyway. Isn't that great television? And I ranted about it for an hour. So yeah, I don't think they even do that. So Melissa. We're
they'll
kind of
just never do. They'll just never.
Exactly. They're just they're fools. Yeah.
Man.
Yes. All right. Zach Mercer asks, how can Allie and Olivia improve their position in the house, even with Johnny probably leaving this week? That's an interesting question. I think my answer would be that they have to continue to essentially play Dela off of Paris, play into their paranoia about Paris.
Mm-hmm.
Even though Paris is probably looking out for Dela more than Allie and Liv are at the moment, or at least were, they are trusting Allie and Liv a little bit more again at the moment. Allie and Liv essentially just need to win that war between themselves and Paris for Dela's loyalty, and then that puts them in a slightly better position moving forward, and then hoping that Paris goes after Dela over them. But it's tough. It's a tough spot to be in because they've lost a lot of control and they've burned a lot of bridges. Brent, what do you think?
I don't know. I think that I'm not sure. I'm very unsure. I'm just trying to figure out like how the game looks like. Even if Johnny goes home this week, how can they rebuild what they once had? And they're going to need to try to cozy up to Dela. I feel like they haven't done a good job of that. I think it was Matt who was talking on the live feeds update. He's like, I remember I used to watch Allie, and he's right. I see this too. Allie and Liv would have conversations every day with Dela, and then at one point, Taran, they just stopped. And when you stop having conversations with people, that's when your relationships suffer. By the way, the chat was like coming for me. Please don't come for me, people. Yes, I know I spelled Cass wrong. I'm trying to make clear. Cass, I thought they said that they were going to be bringing up a twist, and it was backwards week. And so I thought, okay, maybe Cass can be saved. But instead, Cass went home that night. Then Arissa announced what backwards week was. And then because of that, Gary went up on the block and was screwed over as well. So they had two fabulous people they could have saved, and they didn't do shit for either one of them. So they're not going to do anything for Erica.
Yeah. All right. One more question from Horse Lane. This is my first time watching Big Brother Canada. How would you rank this season? I think that's an interesting question. So far, it's what's interesting to me is that this is, I think, one of the first seasons where I guess Big Brother Canada 4 was similar, where the feeds were amazing in the first half of the game, but the episodes did not reflect that. But this season so far, the episodes have not been reflecting a lot of the good parts of the season either. From the feeds perspective, I'd say this is like maybe like a number 2 for Big Brother Canada. And
from episodes.
Yeah, episode perspective, maybe more of like 4th. Maybe.
I think it's probably pretty bad.
Yeah,
I mean, because I agree with Melissa that maybe it's, I don't know if it's just because she talked about it during the last roundtable, but the addiness of everything, feeling like I'm being sold something every time, it does get to me on the episodes.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. I think that for me, obviously, season 2. Best season. Season 5, I think, was probably the second best. Season 4, the beginning was great, but the show didn't really reflect it, so it's hard. Season 1, the show was pretty good, but it also had some problems. And so I feel like after season 2 was like a great season of Big Brother. Season 5 was entertaining with some flaws, and then 4 and 1 for me were like good, but also very severely flawed. And then 3 was just a big mess.
3 was awesome. How dare you?
But I think so far 6 falls into the second tier category of it's been very good, even though but the flaws have been the episodes and the editing. So we'll just have to see how it plays out for me. I do think that if Johnny can pull off staying this week, maybe that gives them inspiration. Maybe they finally give Johnny like a kind of like, I saved myself mastermind. I know this is wishful thinking. I saved myself mastermind edit, and we can get a more accurate reflection of what's happening in the house and have a better end of the game season here. But can
I ask you, can either one of you remember what Ryan said in the diary room last night, where he was like, it was during the food competition, during the Have Not competition, he said, I'm more something not something, and it was really cringeworthy. But I think he was talking about the size of his butt or the size of his body. What was the thing he said? Maybe the chat room.
It was I'm more. Yeah, this is a Gabe said. I'm more Cardi B than a Cardi. Oh, I get that reference now. Lita told me who Cardi B is.
Oh, okay. Who? I said, oh, Cardi. Oh, okay.
Literally, I did an update with Lita this morning, and afterwards we were talking about music, and she was like, "Do you know? Have you listened to Cardi B's what is it? The song Bodak Yellow?" And I was like, "I don't know who that person is." She was like, "She's like the biggest artist ever right now." Thank you, Lita. I now get Ryan's reference.
Yeah, exactly. I had no idea. I thought it was like Kim Kardashian. I thought that's what he was talking about. I had no idea that he was talking about some singer.
Was he making fun of her? Was he like what was is he saying that she's not fit, or was he saying she is fit? I don't know what she looks like.
I think he was just trying to make a play on the word cardio, or they were trying to make a play on the word cardio, and they handed it to him and said, read this bitch, and he's like, okay.
Yeah, they did that thing before the season where they asked the house guests, what's your opinion on Cardi B? And they like posted it recently on Twitter or whatever.
Oh, there you go.
Did you guys see that?
No, really?
What? Yeah, they were like, what do you think? And they showed a picture of her and they were like, what do you think of her? And Johnny thought it was someone else. And so he started talking about, I think it was Johnny. And he started talking about Demi Lovato or something. Right?
Oh, okay.
Am I like making this up? Yeah. Okay.
Sounds
chat's
like you
agreeing with me.
are, but
The
apparently
chat is agreeing with me.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, the chat's like, yeah.
It was on Twitter, and Johnny thought, like, they didn't say this is Cardi B. They just showed a picture, and most of the people knew who it was. But then Johnny thought it was Demi Lovato, and he's like, "Oh, Demi, like, I've liked some of her old work or whatever." And like, they like didn't correct him. They just included that in the video.
I love that Kakuno's in the chat saying Cardi B in the tomb confirmed. Exactly. That would be very apropos.
I feel I got Bader Meinhof like crazy. Like Lita told me about Cardi B, and now I'm seeing it everywhere. Now she's on Big Brother. I just saw an article like she's bigger than Beyonce.
Yeah, she has had more hits on the Billboard charts or whatever at the same time than Beyonce now.
Cardi B just invaded my life in one day.
But apparently it has to do with like what they're measuring. So what they're looking at, like streaming services versus like record sales, which is like very different. But yeah, anyway.
I have a lot
getting into the weeds.
Well, I have a lot of experience with how you measure it. It's all about how you measure it. I get it.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
All right. Seems like Will's making progress with Ali and Liv on the Keep Johnny front. But again, meanwhile, Paris is kind of flipping back over a little bit. So
call me on Thursday.
I'll keep you updated tomorrow. It gives me something to talk about. So make sure you tune in tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern, where I will update you on the status of these feeds. So do we have a hashtag here? I remember somebody said hashtag stupider.
I like that.
Isn't that a word?
Hashtag that we had?
It's grammatically correct. It just dumb.
Okay. All right.
Oh yeah, we had can't go beta.
Yeah. Can't go beta.
Once you go alpha, you can't go beta.
Cardi beta. Cardi beta.
Like
Cardi beta. Do you guys have any final thoughts before we wrap it up?
It'll be interesting to see whether we're talking about Johnny next week at the roundtable, because at this point, I really don't know whether he's going to be there or not, and I'm excited to see how it pans out.
I'm going to stick with my shot, and I'm going to say that I'm going to say ultimately Johnny will be evicted. Paris will come to her senses, and she will get her way. And even if it's 3-3, I could see it being 3-3. I could see Will being stubborn enough to say, you know what, I'm going to vote this way. And plus, they probably think that Johnny's going to go to jury. Hell, they don't even know that Erica isn't in jury, if I'm correct. Like, I think they've been talking about the fact that, if I go to jury, I hope I might see Erica. So they're not even sure what's happening right now. So I'm pretty sure Arissa's going to announce on the show Thursday that whoever's evicted tonight will be the first jury member, and then they're going to know that Erica ain't there.
You know what this week kind of reminds me of? It kind of reminds me of the week that Arlie was on the block. I mean, it's sort of like the roles are reversed, where it made every bit of sense for the Gremlins, I believe they call themselves, to keep Arlie in the game. Whereas this week, it doesn't make any sense for most people to keep Johnny, but it's still the same kind of feeling to me. And I do hope that he's making it interesting. Anybody else on the block right now, I feel like we'd have the most boring week. Thank God we've got Johnny making it interesting for us.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see. Hashtag Cardi
beta.
Cardi beta.
Make sure you check out my interview with June Song on the Taran Show. Very, 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 very good conversation. And people are saying it's the next Brent on the Taran Show. That's how much they like it. Comparing it.
Well, that's what you said to me before you released it. That she was the first person you felt in a while that had come close to. You can say what you want about me.
I had a great Taran Show episode.
It was obviously the best.
Intriguing, exciting, flashy.
I was trying to downplay myself, saying I was just kind of blunt. I wasn't fabulous. I was just blunt.
It's in the same vein as Brent's, where she sort of tells the story of her life, and she goes to a lot of different places, a lot of dark places, and she really has the courage to open up about a lot of different things, and it's very, very good stuff. She's been talking a lot about it herself on Twitter, so very highly recommend checking out my interview with June on the Taran Show.
Of course, and I have listened to it, and I have to say that it's better than my interview. June is the queen, I am just the peasant. She's amazing, and I was living through that discussion because it's just nice to hear. It's just nice to hear her voice, man. I just miss her, and I'm just so glad. I'm not happy for what's, maybe her life hasn't turned out exactly the way that she wanted it to, and she was honest about that in the interview. That she, some choices that she's made, other choices other people have made, but she's here now. We have her, and I'm excited that she's going to maybe follow Big Brother a little bit more and be a little bit more snarkier, and it should be fun. So.
Yeah, it's amazing, just like how much she's changed from when she went on Big Brother to now, and how much her son has changed her life, and lots of good stuff there.
Her son is the best, by the way. Yeah. She tweets about Noah all the time. The cutest kid ever. I just, so often two people that come together from different races, and they just make the most beautiful children. And Noah is no exception. He's so cute.
Yeah, and the way she talks about him is just very endearing.
Yeah, she's a mama bear.
Yes. So again, tune into that's out on the Taran Show right now. Go subscribe to the feed. Listen to the June interview. I will of course be back tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Eastern to update you on the live feeds. We will be back to Thursday night after the eviction, hopefully to talk about how crazy Johnny is and how he managed to survive, but probably not. I don't know. What do you guys want to hear from like Erica? I feel like maybe try to get Erica on the show.
Yeah. I had Erica, so Melissa, if you want Erica, you can.
Her Twitter doesn't accept DMs, so if people want to see Erica, reach out to her. Let her know that we want to hear her on the show.
That's your guys' job out there. Kakuno, get on that. Well, actually, never mind. Kakuno, we don't want Kakuno.
Of all people,
I know, right? I'm like, I had to rethink that one. I'm like, oh, that was Brent, not a smart. I haven't been making smart decisions this week, Taran.
All right. So make sure you subscribe to this podcast and all of the other Big Brother coverage. We've got a dedicated Big Brother feed. You get all of the Big Brother coverage in one place on iTunes. You can also subscribe to the reality TV RHAP-ups feed, which includes the Taran Show and all of the other great stuff. We're also covering Ninja versus Ninja. There's still some Drag Race stuff going on, isn't there, Brent? I feel like we're like 2 seasons back to back or something.
Yeah, 2 seasons back to back. We had All Stars, thank God, because the stink of All Stars needed to wear off real fast. So I'm really glad that season 10 came right after it. And Liana and Mike and I are tweeting. There's some really fun issues this season on Drag Race. So come and join us. We are doing a show after obviously Drag Race airs on Thursday nights. Usually our recap drops on Saturday or Sunday, and we're having a great time. So come listen.
All right. So follow us on Twitter as well. I'm at Armstrong Taran. Brent is at One Lucky Gay. Melissa is at It's Melissa with 3 A's. As is her bot. And no, it's not at Michelle with 3 A's.
Not Michelle. It's Melissa.
Yes. All right. Thank you everyone so much for joining us. Great show. Very fun chatting with you guys and the chat and everyone. I'm so happy to have you wonderful people to help ease the pain of Big Brother Canada sometimes. So thank you everyone for joining us. For Brent and Melissa, I am Taran Armstrong. #Cardi Beta. We will see you next time.